This is the iPhone 4. It's tiny, it's glass, and it feels like magic. And this is the iPhone 16 Pro Max. It's huge, it's titanium, and it's kind of the same, right? I've spent the last week digging through 20 years of Apple launches, patents, and financial reports, and I found something absolutely insane. Everyone thinks Apple is a tech company. You think they sell phones, but if you look at the hidden details in their balance sheet, the specs of their business model, you realize that's a lie. Apple doesn't want to sell you a phone anymore. They want to charge you rent. I found the exact moment, down to the day, where Apple stopped being a magician and started being a landlord. And the scariest part, it worked better than anyone could have imagined. So, why did the world's most innovative company lose its soul to find its profit? Okay, we need to rewind to 2011. Steve Jobs resigns, the world is mourning the loss of the greatest product visionary of our time, and who takes over? The operations guy, Tim Cook. Now, on paper, this looked like the most boring downgrade in history. Steve was the guy who obsessed over the curvature of a rectangle. Tim was the guy who obsessed over spreadsheets. But everyone underestimated just how insane Tim Cook's operating system actually was. Now, you will assume a company built on magic needs a magician to survive. That without Steve, the innovation engine would die and the company would crumble. But that's not what happened. The innovation did die, but the company got rich. And the reason is terrifyingly smart. Everyone thought the secret to Apple's success was the design studio, right? Hold your phone. Because before he was CEO, Tim Cook dropped a quote that basically explained the next 15 years of your digital life. He said, "Inventory is evil. You kind of want to manage it like you are in dairy business. If it gets past its freshness date, you have a problem." Definitely, inventory is evil. Think about that. Most tech companies, Samsung, Sony, they have billions of dollars of phones sitting in warehouses, losing value every second. Tim looked at that and said, "Delete it." He tuned Apple's supply chain so perfectly that an iPhone basically doesn't exist until you buy it. He cut inventory down from months to days. That is billions of dollars in cash that used to be stacked in boxes, suddenly freed up to do other things. He turned Apple from a product company into a cash flow machine. And for a while, the stock market loved it. But then, we hit 2016, the iPhone 7. The phone looked the same. The features were slowing down, the magic was fading, and people stopped buying as many phones. For the first time, the super cycle of upgrade stalled. If you are a normal company, this is where you panic. You try to invent the next big thing to save yourself. Standard business logic says, when your main product stops growing, you innovate or you die. Tim Cook looked at that logic and said, nah. Instead of inventing a new product, he decided to change the definition of success. This brings us to November 1, 2018, the most important day in modern Apple history. The headlines were screaming about the new iPad Pro, but the real story was buried in the earnings call transcript. And just when you think you know how Apple works, CFO Luca Maestri gets on the call and drops this bombshell. He said, "A unit of sale is less relevant for us today than it was in the past." And then he announced, Apple will stop reporting how many iPhones they sell. The stock tanked 7% instantly. Wall Street was furious. It felt like they were hiding the decline. It felt like they were saying, we can't grow anymore. But they were actually saying something else. They were saying, we don't care if you buy a new phone, because we already own you. This is where we enter the era of the services fortress. If you look at the specs of Apple business today, it is unrecognizable from the Steve Jobs era. You probably think Apple makes most of its profit from that $1,000 piece of titanium in your pocket, don't you? But here's the catch. According to their 2023 10K filings, that's the yearly financial X-ray of the company, Apple's services revenue hits $85.2 billion. Let me put that number into perspective. Apple's side hustle, the App Store, iCloud, Apple Music, Apple Pay is now bigger than the entire GDP of Luxembourg. It is bigger than Nike and McDonald's combined. And the margins? This is the tech spec that matters. When they sell you an iPhone, they make about 36% profit. When they sell you a service, they make 70.8% profit. It's nearly double. Why sell hardware when you can sell air? This is the rent-seeking economy. They moved from ownership, like you buying a phone, to usership as you pay rent to live in their ecosystem. Now, usually, when a company stops innovating and starts squeezing its customers, they use that money to fund a moonshot. It's a new era. You would expect a company with 160 billions in cash to build a folding phone like Samsung, buy Disney, or finally release the Apple car. They spent a decade promising the ultimate driving machine. Then the memo leak. And just when you think it couldn't get crazier, in February 2024, after 10 years of hype, Apple officially killed Project Titan. I want you to process the specs of this failure. They had 2,000 employees working on it. They burned through an estimated $10 billion. That is enough money to build Burj Khalifa 6 times. And what did we get? Nothing. Not a wheel, not a door handle, just a press release saying, never mind. It is the single most expensive field product in tech history that wasn't even released. So if they can't build a car and they won't build a new phone, where did all that money go? And then this drops. Since 2012, Apple has spent over $600 billion on stock buybacks. Stock buybacks? That's a finance term for when a company uses its own cash to buy its own share and delete them. $600 billion? That is more than the entire value of Tesla. Think about that irony. They could have bought Tesla twice. Instead, they failed to build a car, gave up, and effectively set the money on fire to boost the stock price. It is the ultimate signal we have run out of ideas, so we are just going to pay ourselves. We all laugh at the memes about green bubbles ruining group chats, but the Department of Justice wasn't laughing. Next thing you know, in 2024, the US government sues Apple, and the filing is absolutely savage. They allege that Apple created a performance degradation for iPhone messaging androids specifically to create social stigma. They weaponized teenage anxiety. They made it so that leaving the iPhone doesn't just mean losing your apps, it means losing your social life. It creates switching costs that are psychological, not just financial. So, what can we actually learn from this trillion-dollar pivot? Because whether you love Apple or hate them, this is a masterclass. Remember, when we look at the iPhone 16 versus the iPhone 4, that feeling of is just the same thing but faster? This isn't laziness. That is a specific business phenomenon. I dug into the work of Clayton Christensen, the godfather of innovation theory at Harvard Business School, and this stuck. He calls this sustaining innovation. Incumbents like Apple stop trying to disrupt. They get addicted to their high margin. They only focus on making the existing product slightly better for their most profitable customers. It feels safe. But Christensen data proves that this is exactly where companies get killed. By optimizing for the present, you create a blind spot for the future. Apple is so good at sustaining the iPhone. They might have missed the AI shift entirely. Remember that trigger quote about inventory? Inventory is evil. That one sentence changed everything. I found a fascinating case study from the Board of Innovation on constraint-led strategy. Tim Cook didn't focus on a positive metric like new patents. He focused on minimizing a negative metric like inventory hold time. By attacking the evil part of the business, which is waste, he generated the cash flow that funded the entire ecosystem. Sometimes you don't need a new idea. You just need to aggressively delete the evil, which is the inefficiency in your current workflow. So, here is the trillion-dollar question. Tim Cook Fortress was built for smartphone era, but that era is ending. We are entering the AI era. And in the AI era, Siri is the joke of the industry. Apple Intelligence is the sleeping giant. They have 1.5 billion devices ready to update overnight, and they will win AI just by being the default option. But Siri fails to catch up ChatGPT, and Apple may become the next Nokia, a rich, profitable company that ceases to matter. So what do you think? Is Apple about to dominate AI, or are they the richest dinosaur on Earth? I hope you love this absolute roller coaster as much as I did making it. Hit subscribe if you want more of these insane deep dive, and I will see you in the next one. Stay awesome.